Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? So welcome to new alumni Who Dis, right? My name is Derek. I am the Alumni Engagement Coordinator for Warrior Scholar Project. In addition to being with Warrior Scholar Project engaging in alumni engagement, I am also a member of the Young Alumni Leaders Council for my university at the University of Miami on the Strategic Engagement Committee, as well as in the process of forming an alumni affinity group for military-connected students at the University of Miami as well. So I have been spending the last few years really trying to figure out, how do we keep alumni engaged? How do we have them go from being a participant, having an experience, and then supporting them throughout? And how is that relationship mutually beneficial? I think that's one of the most key points of when it comes to alumni engagement. Now, this is a relatively small group, so I am going to ask if you'd please be so kind as to quickly introduce yourself. I think it's really important that we get to know who's in the room. And one of the most important things for me is the last bullet point. I'm curious to see what your experience has been and what do you hope to get out of this conversation, because I want to be able to deliver that for you. So if we could start over here, please, ma'am.
My name is Lisa Marshall Velez. I'm from Pensacola, Florida. I am a student at the Pensacola State College. My experience. Oh, should I start again? Yeah. Okay. All right. My name is Lisa Marshall Velez. I am from Pensacola, Florida. I attend the Pensacola State College, and my experience with alumni. I'm pretty new to the game, so. I don't know much about it, and I would just like to learn everything I can at this point. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Cassie. I work with Derek at Warrior Scholar Project. I work in admissions and student veteran recruitment for our academic boot camps and all of our programs that we offer for student veterans. I came from Michigan, and my experience with alumni is very limited, but I'm interested in hearing more. And Derek and I have had a lot of conversations, and my goal is to figure out how we can start prepping our new recruits and our new participants, and prepping them for the journey on the other side once they finish our programs, and how we can sort of get them ready to become alumni and be excited about that, and eventually become what we call ambassadors.
Thank you.
Jason Graven, Military Program Coordinator, Bowling Green State University. That's Ohio, not Kentucky. And I have a little bit of experience with alumni where we've engaged a lot of our alumni with the university. We're in the process of putting together an alumni chapter to kind of help support the current student vets. So, yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brittany Aker. I'm an electronics engineer for Northrop Grumman right now, but I'm an SVA alum. I'm an alum from USF, and Tau Beta alum. But unfortunately for me, I was a first semester COVID grad, so being an alumnus means nothing. I haven't engaged with my college. I haven't engaged with any other group that I was involved in until this event. I was very fortunate and very passionate about SVA and what SVA did for me 4 years as a student on the other side of the rope. So now I'm here to kind of give back and continue that. Part of that is, as an alum, coming back and working with folks like Calvin Jensen and stuff, and what that's going to mean for SVA's future. But my biggest thing is getting back involved with the university, doing it as a student veteran. What is the best way to say, hey, I'm an alum and I want to come back and help. I'm willing to put in that time, and what's the best way to go about that? Supporting from the corporate side, ensuring that, letting my company know that, this is good for us, going back. So there's multiple facets, and I'm definitely interested in kind of getting more information on what the best practices are at this point.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanya Savelle Marzan. I'm here from San Antonio, Texas. I am currently the treasurer of our SVA, but I'm also an alum, and I went back because she didn't have anybody. So I don't have a lot of experience with alumni. I've been at a 2-year school for 3 years, and I told them I'm not leaving. So I'm just here to pick brains to figure out how to help us with our turnover every 18 months. Because it gets old quick.
Yep, absolutely. Sir, you snuck in here. We're just doing a quick introduction to get a chance to have everybody know. So here are the points that we're asking folks to share.
Hello, I'm Gabriel Anderson. I'm from California. I just recently graduated Cal Berkeley. I am/was the vice president of our chapter, and I came because I am a new alum, so that's why I came to this meeting.
Fantastic. Great, thank you so very much. And yes, like many of you, I'm a COVID graduate as well. So my commencement was supposed to be in May of 2020, and I actually had a virtual commencement in December of 2020. So there you go. So we're all in the same boat here. And a lot of the concerns that you're sharing about, coming out of COVID and SVA chapters going through kind of a turbulent time. There's a lack of engagement, there's a lack of enthusiasm. Trust me, I know it. I'm still heavily involved in my SVA chapter at my university. My predecessor, when I was president of the SVA, my predecessor created a position which I thought was really smart, and it was the alumni ambassador for the SVA. So he stayed on as a past president and filled that role. I'm sitting in that role now currently as a recent past president. So my whole point is to support the current president, hear what their needs are, and then starting engaging in recent alum to figure out, okay, what resources do we have in the community that we can help drive those initiatives? What does that look like? So I'm definitely aware of what those challenges are. But I think one of the most important things to kind of clear up is these terms. We hear a lot of them being thrown around: alumni, alum, alumna, alumnus, and what does that mean? So generally speaking, alumni is the masculine plural form of the word, but is the most used and commonly used for mixed groups or groups of just men. But then we have alumna, which is the singular for a female graduate. Alumnus is the singular name for a male graduate. Alumnae is for a group of female graduates. But now we've gotten to the comfortable use of the word alum or alums as kind of being a gender non-specific. It was very informal previously, but it's becoming more and more commonly used. So feel free in your communication to use that type of language, right? It's perfectly acceptable to say, we as alums want to give back to our community. That's perfectly acceptable. So here's some of the best practices we're talking about here. One of the things that, so for example, Warrior Scholar Project has been around for 10 years. There's nearly 2,000 alum in our network. I became affiliated with Warrior Scholar Project in 2019 when I went through the program, and I will have a selfless plug where I'll talk about our program. I'd be remiss if I didn't do that to kind of let you know exactly what I do and what we do as an organization. But that was my introduction to Warrior Scholar Project, 2019. And I became the Alumni Engagement Coordinator at the end of 2020. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I reach the very first cohort back in 2015, 2013? How do I reach those folks? And one of the things we realized is that we had a challenge because of email addresses being our primary means of communication. Now, the reality is that many of our program folks either applied while they were in the military or applied while they were in undergraduate school or community college, and that's the email address that they were using at that time. Well, it's not the email address that they're using currently today. And so that becomes a really big challenge in terms of, say, how do we reach them? Because we don't know who they are anymore or how to contact them. So instead, what I focused on was, let me really get really good at engaging our newest alum. Let's make sure that they are engaged. Let's make sure that I get their most current email address that they look at regularly, confirm that their cell phone numbers aren't going to change, and then start creating programming for them, the most recent folks that I was able to get a hold of. And that energy and that momentum has now expanded beyond this initial crop because a lot of our applicants come through word of mouth, come through other alum. So they're telling their friends, hey, did you go to this event? You missed it? Oh man, you got it, man, you're missing out. And then we'll get folks reaching out saying, hey, I'm not getting the newsletter, or hey, I'm not, getting these notifications. Can you update my contact info so I can start getting this stuff? And so I started getting folks from 2017 and 2016 and 2015. So my suggestion to you is start with the group that you have now. Start engaging with the current seniors, some of your rising seniors, your current juniors, really starting engaging with them now, creating a lot of benefit and value for their experience, because that's what's going to carry them through, right? They're going to get really excited about being a part of your organization, and then they're going to want to graduate and tell people about how awesome it is. And oftentimes, many of us, right, we know in the veteran space that word of mouth is one of the most critical forms of communication in our community, all because of that trust and bond that we have with each other. So when they start hearing from their buddies who they encouraged to apply to their school, or they had a class with, and things of that nature, hear how awesome things are and what kind of events that are being hosted, then they're going to be like, hey, I want some of that. And you'll start seeing those folks kind of come in. I was caught up in the initial desire to try to figure out how to outreach to folks from the past, right? And it was a lot of waste of time, because it just took so much time trying to contact them, and you're reaching to them out of the blue. So start with where you are, get this core group really excited, and then you'll start seeing from the past start coming out of the woodworks, because they're hearing through the grapevine and hearing through their networks all the things that they're missing out on. So that's one of the very first practices where you are. Don't get so caught up in trying to reach folks from the past, okay? Focus where you're at. So build connection and community, add value, right? As you go through the NatCon this weekend, really learning what resources are available to us, what resources are available to your chapter, what resources are available to your members, to student veterans, to military-connected students, and sharing those resources with folks. So that's where, for example, sharing Warrior Scholar Project is beneficial. So this is the shameless plug. So we provide academic boot camps, 3 curriculums: humanities, STEM, business and entrepreneurship. We host these boot camps at different institutions around the country. They're 1 week long. They're super intense. But after a student veteran goes through our boot camp, no matter where they're at in their bachelor's degree journey, they walk away with tremendous confidence and new skills on how to succeed in higher education, whether that be stopping at a bachelor's, whether that be going into a trade school, whether that be finishing associates, or pursuing a higher advanced degree, right? All the skills that they develop here are very translatable into success in whatever higher learning they're deciding to pursue. So I highly encourage you to encourage your student veterans to use resources like Warrior Scholar Project. They'll be able to kind of get a grip, and then what happens is that they go through this event, they go through this program, and they say, man, it was such a great thing. Thank you so much to my SVA chapter for giving me this opportunity and for showing me what's available to me. How can I give back? What do you need for me? What can I offer you? And that's how you start beginning that engagement. So again, recapping, right? Start where you are, build that connection and community, looking for opportunities to add value. Communicate. Now, this is where, again, folks probably aren't going to be looking at their emails from college after they graduate. You get into the workforce, you get into your business, you start doing other things, and then it's like, I'm not looking at that email address anymore, right? I can't tell you how many times I've heard people ask me, you get to keep your email address after you graduate? Like, yes, as long as you log in once a year, you get to keep your email address after you graduate. So think of ways to engage with those folks. One of the things that Warrior Scholar Project had when I came on board was we had a Facebook group. That was it. And I said, okay, that was great back in 2015. Most of our new alums, new participants aren't on Facebook, right? And if they are on Facebook, it's to just check in with grandma and grandpa. It's not to engage with other veterans their age, right? So go where your folks are. So I established a LinkedIn group, right? And then really trying to push a LinkedIn group, which has grown exponentially because, again, these networks starting to expand, right? And one of the things that you want to put in this LinkedIn group is you want to put content from your alum. So if your alums are posting a job opening at their company, if they're asking for research participants for a new study, whatever the case may be, you want to be able to make sure that that type of content is being displayed in that group. Because it shows, oh, this is a place where I can share information and share contact, and they get to see other alums and kind of see what they're up to and what they're doing, right? This is also a place where, again, you want to start posting any virtual events you're hosting, any in-person events that you're hosting, right? Start doing polls to say, hey, look, here's some things we're thinking about doing. If you'd please take a moment and just quickly answer like 5 questions, because one of the things that we don't want to get into the trap of thinking, we don't want to think we know what's best for our community. Go into the community and start asking for some feedback. Asking them for what are the things that you're looking for? What are the things that you need help with that we can then go to the university, we can go to our organization and try to provide those resources for you and pool those things together. So communication is key. Another aspect that we've used is we started creating a Slack workspace. That's a very common tool used in higher education now. So thinking of whatever platform is accessible or commonly used at your institution, that's something where you kind of want to translate that to the alumni group, right? Because they're going to have some familiarity with navigating that platform. So again, I kind of shifted our organization away from Facebook, focusing more heavily on LinkedIn, and then recently launching a Slack channel just to kind of attract folks. Our organization is a little different because we have students from all across the country and different colleges and campuses around the country. So one of the things that our alum asked us for was, I'd love to know who else went through Warrior Scholar Project at my university. So Slack was a way for us to kind of create university channels, and then folks were able to then assign themselves based on if they attend that school, if they're applying to that school, and really kind of having that type of thing. So Slack kind of gives you that type of flexibility as well, where you could be able to create channels where you're having like specific degree plans, right? If you have, electrical engineers, right? They can have a Slack channel within their university and be able to engage with other electrical engineers in the university community, right? Again, creating that community, creating that connection, right? What are those common bonds that we all share? So figuring out how to communicate. The other aspect is thinking of your alumni association at your university. The University of Miami, for example, was doing a major revamp of their alumni outreach. They were collecting a ton of data for their alumni community. It'd been years since they've kind of collected of, where are people at and what are people doing. Thankfully for us, I had an opportunity to hear about this before they launched this initiative, and I asked, do you have a box for veterans or military connected? And they said, oh, no, we didn't even think of that, right? So going to your alumni association and then asking them, how are you tracking military connected folks upon graduation? Are you tracking military connected folks upon graduation? Because one of the things that we also recognized was there's a lot of folks who are undergrads, graduate, and then join the military. They weren't ROTC or weren't in the military when they were undergrads. But now they're part of this community. They're going to have a similar experience and an affinity to your group as being veterans now and having some common connection to the military. So working with your alumni association to kind of really uncover some of those hidden gems of individuals who now have a military affiliation, right? An undergrad who graduated and then got married to a service member, or who later down the road will have dependents with that service member, right? Again, continuing to kind of think out beyond just folks in uniforms, right? Starting thinking about those undergrads who later on became affiliated with the military. And how do you reach those folks? Again, thinking through. Emails is a challenge, right? I've had my same cell phone number for over 20 years. So thinking of ways of connecting to folks through their cell phones is a lot better way than just trying to rely on email communication to reach folks. And one of the things that we found is that when you send out an email blast, you're probably going to get about maybe 20% open rate, and you're going to stick at that roughly 20% open rate. And it's the same folks that are opening the email. So sending another email follow-up is not going to help your cause because just the same people are going to open it up, right? So really thinking about how to diversify your communication. And again, I touched upon some of these resources, right? Some of these resources outside of, just you doing a lot of the heavy lifting, right? Looking at alumni groups, looking at other VSO organizations, so Wounded Warrior Project, The Mission Continues, Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon, and then really kind of engaging with alumni who might be affiliated with other veteran servicing organizations that you can bring into the fold, right? You'd be really surprised. I was shocked at how extensive the network of alumni was, especially in the military space, once I started getting involved with building an alumni network at my university. There were folks that, oh yeah, I went to the University of Miami and I served in the military. I was like, how come I'm just finding about this? Like, you're not on any form or Excel spreadsheet that I've seen. How do we fix those things, right? So by, just letting folks know what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to achieve, will then start kind of creating that buzz that you're looking for, where folks are talking about it, right? And say, oh yeah, there's somebody that's trying to stand up an affinity group. Here's their email address or here's their phone number. You should reach out to them. Or hey, there's a LinkedIn group that you could join and connect with some alumni. So recently I had an alum reach out to me on LinkedIn asking for support or looking at starting a nonprofit organization, and was just curious if anybody in our network had any experience with that, right? It doesn't take a lot for me to say, hey, here's somebody you probably want to connect with. And that person now has an even greater incentive to talk about, our alumni network and how beneficial it is. And one of the things that I was definitely caught up with was responsibilities. You're responsible to engage with alumni. You're not responsible to necessarily solve all their problems. And that was something that I had to learn getting into this role, is I was trying to figure out, how do I address all these different problems that folks were having, or these supports that they were looking for? How do I get all this support for all these different people who are doing so many different things, right? And I realized I'm not necessarily responsible for finding that stuff, right? What I am responsible for is just engaging with them, making sure that they have access to the network, make sure that they have engagement with other alumni within the network so that they can then find those resources on their own. Okay, so those are the types of things that I think is really important to communicate, because we're very passionate about giving back. We're very passionate about serving our community and doing everything we can for our community. But it's also important to recognize that we can't do everything for our community. And so we want to empower them to do those things for themselves. So while I'm here on this slide, let me just do a quick recap, right? Start with where you're at. Don't worry about trying to find that alum from 20 years ago, right? Focus on that senior. One of the things that we did at the University of Miami is that we passed out cords to our graduating veterans, right? So what we ended up doing was I kept all the cords and I coordinated with them to come meet me to pick them up. And when they came to meet me to pick them up, I said, okay, what email do you check regularly? Have you joined our LinkedIn group? We're starting this affinity group. Would you be interested in being involved? And they're like, yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, okay, great, fantastic. Your name's on the list. Here's your cords. Congratulations on graduating. I look forward to seeing you at our next alumni event. So thinking about ways that you can engage with them at their point of departure. Okay, so, because there's a lot of folks that it's surprising. They go through their entire undergraduate experience or their graduate experience in higher education not wanting to be identified as a veteran, but once they find out that there's cords that they can get because they served in the military, they want their cords. So like use those things as leverage to start getting updated contact information before they depart, to get them excited about being an alum, to get them excited and know about what you're doing. A lot of times it's just folks just don't know that there even is an organization or there is someone trying to form an alumni network at their university. So being able to grab them before they walk out, you're able to get that. So start with where you're at, right? Building that connection and community, tell them about Warrior Scholar Project, all right? But also, thinking of ways to support them, right? One of the things that we talked about in the strategic engagement committee, and these are, as a young alumni, it's alumni who have graduated within 5 years. So these are all 5 to 10 years. These are all newly recent graduates. Again, what's cool is that I am the veteran on the group, and it's a bit of a misnomer saying young alumni when I have the grayest beard in the group, but we're trying to think through, okay, how do we engage with alumni? This is something that across the university is trying to think about this. It's not just specifically student veterans. So one of the things we thought about was creating opportunities where we teach people how to engage with alumni networks, right? We can't automatically assume that folks know how to network. We can't automatically assume that they know how to communicate on LinkedIn and get support. So thinking of ways of creating events where you're teaching folks how to ask for support, how to engage in LinkedIn, how to set up a LinkedIn page, right? How to get in these groups and how to create content in these groups and start, how to find a job through your alumni network, right? These are all things that folks just really don't necessarily, we kind of assume that someone will take the time to learn and know, but that's not necessarily the case. So that's a really easy way for you to start building some engagement and providing some value to your alum, right? By showing them how and where to engage with their alumni network. Communicate the best way that you can. And that's gonna take some creativity on your part to just think through, okay, how do we communicate? Is it effective? Are we getting the rate of return that we're looking for? Sharing resources and utilizing the resources at your institutions. Your alumni association, local business leaders, chambers of commerce, things of that nature, just so that you can start building that community and that network, and then also having resources available to the alum as they're walking the door seeking those resources. And then finally, what are you responsible for? You're responsible for engagement, not responsible for solving all their life problems. So keeping those things in mind. And so with that, folks, I'd like to open the floor to any questions, any comments. I'd love to hear kind of what you're thinking about and if there's anything that kind of spurred that we can kind of work on together. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
One of the things that I've had success with, you talked about not reaching out to the past alum that's like too far off. SVA specific, I had success reaching out to the past officers because many of them maintain contact with the officers that they served with, and there's overlap there. So we were able to trace it back. So your everyday member, you might not, they might fall through the cracks, but a lot of the officers, they worked together, they knew each other, and they stayed in contact. Like I've been out of college for over a decade now. The people I was in the SVA with, officer-wise, I stayed in contact with.
That's a great point.
That's what I would recommend instead of trying to reach every single member. The officers are a little bit more prone, and they're a little bit more invested because they spent more time.
Absolutely, yeah, and they're higher engaged. Absolutely, that's a great point. And they also have the folks that they were in school with, right? The members that they were a part of, and they know some of those high engagement members as well. So that's a great point. Absolutely, absolutely. I just remember we have a WhatsApp group for our past presidents for my university. So yeah, you just reminded me of that. Fantastic. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay, fantastic. Well, you're going to get some of your time back. So thank you all so very much for being here and for wanting to serve, continue to serve our alumni and your service members. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.